Quotas enforce storage limits. They control the amount of storage space a user can have. Most research collaborations rely upon quotas to control usage. There are multiple types of quotas. Quotas can be set to specify the maximum allowed storage per person, or per person per storage system, or per group per storage system. The storage usage is periodically updated. When a user exceeds his or her quota, he or she can still read files but can no longer upload additional files. The actual quota for each person in the lifetime library is 500 gigabytes. Since files are replicated, this is 250 gigabytes of data. Quotas are controlled at the policy enforcement point, AC-RES Quota Policy. This policy calls MSI Set Resource Quota Policy on to turn quotas on. An administrator needs to run a periodic rule to update the storage usage. Or the administrator can update the quota interactively by executing the I command iadmin.cu, which updates usage for quotas. Users can also list their quota and usage by running the iQuota I command, iQuota Usage to list usage by storage system. The administrator can run the I command iadmin.lq name to list the quota for a person. Quotas are set explicitly by the administrator. The iadmin I command is used. Quotas can be set on a user or on a group of users. iadmin suq user resource name or total value sets the user quota for a given resource or for the total quota to the specified value. iadmin sgq group resource name or total value sets a group quota, again for either a resource or for a total quota. When the quotas are created, they can be set on a specific storage resource or for all storage resources. Users can set quotas by resource name or across all resources. The same is true for groups. You can set groups quotas by resource name or total across all resources. Each user can run the iQuota I command to check their usage. An example is provided here. The user types iQuota usage. The system then prints out for each resource your username and the data stored in bytes. In the case of a lifetime library, there are multiple resources. Diamond Cache 1, Diamond MSO are used for workflow structured objects. LTL Sils is a Unix file system for storing data at sils. LTL Rensi is a Unix file system for storing data at the Renaissance Computing Institute. The return to information details usage by storage system. Note that Diamond MSO1 is used for workflow structured objects. A rule can be created that replicates the information provided by the iQuota usage command. The rule, testlistUsage.r, creates a query to identify all the storage resources. Inside a loop over the storage resources, a nested query is made to find the usage for each storage resource. The total usage is calculated by adding the storage used per resource. The system time is retrieved and the information is written using the writeParam policy function. WriteParam pretty prints the output variables using tabs to ensure a columnar output. The rule is shown here. The writeParam policy function pretty prints by ensuring that every string is at least 16 bytes or characters long. If the string length is less than 8, it adds a tab character to the name. If the string length is less than 16, it adds a tab character. This effectively adds 2 tab characters for string lengths less than 8. This is done for all 3 input parameters to the writeParam policy function. The policy function then writes the 3 variables to standard out. Take 7 minutes and complete exercise 68. Run a rule to find the amount of storage used on each storage resource. Use the rule lifelibzone home rwmore rules test-listusage.r. Please load a paragraph describing your result into the lifetime library in the subcollection class INLS 624 by the end of today's class. The Temporal Dynamics of Learning Center, TDLC, is a cognitive science project funded by the National Science Foundation. TDLC is one of 6 science of learning centers that were established. Researchers tend to collaborate within a team of associates, sharing standards for the conduct of research. The Temporal Dynamics of Learning Center had to organize researchers from multiple institutions into research teams. The approach was based on the creation of a consensus at yearly meetings on the most important topics. Researchers would then collaborate with persons from other institutions who were exploring the same research question. Datasets, analysis procedures, and results would be shared. The number of institutions participating in the center has grown substantially, from the original 4 members to more than 15. Most of the universities are located in the United States, but the project has expanded to Australia, University of Queensland, to the United Kingdom, University College London, and to Canada, University of Victoria. The iRODS data grid was used to build a data sharing environment. An example of the requirements for an international data grid was a joint publication developed between researchers at UCSD and the University of Queensland. Efficient methods were needed to share data sets between researchers in Australia and in San Diego. The TDLC Center realized that multiple networks would need to be established to address the multiple research challenges associated with learning. Thus, while teams were being formed into networks for each research area, a network of networks had to be developed to ensure interactions between the teams. Each research area had on the order of 10 researchers from multiple institutions whose interactions comprised a network. Initially, data sharing was primarily within each network. The TDLC Center strongly promoted interactions between networks. Over a 5-year period, interactions between networks became as strong as interactions within a network. This is an example of interdisciplinary research. Each initial team worked in a specific subdiscipline of cognitive science. The network of networks addressed research challenges that crossed subdisciplines. The researchers within the TDLC had independent laboratories at their home institution. Each laboratory had multiple methods for naming, arranging, storing, and describing their data sets. A major challenge was the organization of each laboratory's data into coherent collections. Once a laboratory had a coherent collection, sharing data with another laboratory within a research network became feasible. A consensus had to be developed on data formats, provenance metadata, tools for parsing the data formats, and analysis methods. The exceptions were the laboratories that were managing large data collections. These data sets tended to be generated by a single method and thus were internally consistent. They could be treated as a separate collection that could be shared. A second challenge was the management of protected data. The research required the measurement of sensor data across multiple modalities for individuals, EKG, video, etc., including children and adults. Each laboratory had to acquire Institutional Review Board approval for controlling access to the data. This included multiple levels of protection for data sharing between team members, between institutions collaborating on the same network, and between institutions collaborating on different networks. The solution was the creation of a separate database that identified which persons could access each data set. These controls were then imposed on the datasets stored within the data grid. The controls were periodically updated to track changes in access permissions. The TDLC Center is one of the participating national scale projects in the DataNet Federation Consortium Federation Hub. The motivations driving the participation included access to technologies that were developed in other projects and caching of data while storage systems were updated. 2 types of technology were important to the TDLC: access clients and workflow management systems. The cognitive science researchers had limited backgrounds in computer science and required clients similar to Dropbox. However, they had to address strong privacy concerns associated with IRB approval policies. The iDrop web browser developed by the DFC was used to access the shared collections. This enforced access controls, permitted browsing of files, and could access replicas. A major constraint was imposed by the local networks at each institution. Problems included limited bandwidth to a lab, widely varied operating systems, and network firewalls. The TDLC is converting to the cloud browser to improve data transfer rates and manage disparate operating system interactions more easily. Workflow applications will be managed through the discovery environment developed by the iPlant Collaborative. This system supports the registration of workflows, the encapsulation of applications and machine images, and the remote execution of workflows at computer centers. An interesting use case for the DFC Federation Hub was the caching of the TDLC data collections in North Carolina while storage systems were upgraded in San Diego. The data were replicated to the cache and then replicated back to the new storage systems. The data movement did not affect the ability of the users to access the data sets.